Throughout this video, I will prove to you why race, as a construct, fundamentally influences human behavior. Observe the visuals, the social matrix where identical human figures enter a digital grid. It imposes specific patterns upon them, turning the raw material of humanity into categorized, predictable subjects. We were not born with these rigid, defining differences. We are the products of an elaborate, automated machine, a social apparatus that functions with surgical precision. From the earliest days of our schooling, we are bombarded with expectations. We look into the mirror of identity and see only what we were trained to recognize. The gears of the social machine grind incessantly, constructing barriers of invisible code, partitioning our potential into segregated cells. We are forced into paths we did not choose, guided by the cold logic of societal classification. This is not nature. It is a meticulously engineered environment designed to maintain order through division. Think about the language we use, the schools we attend, and the neighborhoods we are funneled into. Every choice is shadowed by the silent, omnipresent specter of expectation. We are not merely living our lives. We are performing roles scripted by history and enforced by culture. The digital grid you see in the video is not just a graphic. It represents the invisible constraints that dictate our movement. When we speak of behavior, we are often observing the reaction of a human being to the specific cage they have been placed in. We have become experts at self-policing, suppressing our natural inclinations to avoid the friction of social disapproval. The tragedy is that we have mistaken these external constraints for internal nature, convinced that the limits of our environment are the limits of our soul. This is the first level of our imprisonment, the belief that the cage is actually a part of the bird. We have been conditioned to accept the biological lottery as a fundamental truth. We are told that a random scattering of genes dictates whether we are destined for greatness or doomed to apathy. Consider the legacy of the 19th century, phrenology. It was not just pseudoscience. It was a weapon of social control. By measuring the shape of a skull, authorities felt empowered to define an individual's entire future, branding people with stigmas that lasted lifetimes. This behavior echoes in our modern minds. Our brains are essentially labeling engines. It is cognitively easier to rely on simplified biological shortcuts, such as the DNA magnifying glass shown here, than to engage in the exhausting work of analyzing the complex, shifting fabric of society. But it didn't stop with phrenology. It evolved into eugenics, into systemic segregation, and into the subtle biases that dictate hiring practices and judicial outcomes today. We have inherited a worldview that treats biology as a destiny rather than a starting point. Every time we look at someone and make an assumption, we are channeling the ghosts of 19th century pseudoscience. We are perpetuating a narrative that was explicitly designed to keep the status quo frozen in time. To move forward, we must become historical archaeologists, excavating the prejudices that have been buried in our collective subconscious. We stand at a crossroads. To one side lies the path of easy, exclusionary barriers. To the other, the difficult, winding road of understanding the dark legacy of historical prejudice. We prefer the lie of simple categorization over the uncomfortable reality of our shared, complex humanity. It requires a profound act of intellectual courage to look into the mirror and recognize the history of human cruelty staring back at us. Yet, science provides the definitive counter-argument. We are 99.9% genetically identical. This is not a rounding error. It is the core of our existence. The differences we perceive, skin tone, facial structure, are merely the tiny, visible surface of a vast, submerged iceberg. Skin color is not a moral indicator. It is an evolutionary adaptation to solar radiation. The shape of a nose or the texture of hair, these are adaptations to climatic conditions and geography. They are historical snapshots, not blueprints of character. When we put our biology under a microscope, the scanner of human destiny returns not found. No gene for morality, no sequence for kindness, no marker for work ethic. If we were to mix the global population for a few centuries, these superficial markers would dissolve like salt in an ocean. We are a single, interbreeding species that has been isolated in tiny pockets for just a fraction of our existence. Our current obsession with racial differences is a modern anomaly, not a biological constant. Science has shown us that there is more genetic variation within a single African village than there is between an average European and an average Asian. The categories we treat as gospel are literally illusions cast by our own fear of difference. Biology is the canvas, not the author. It is a biological vessel, an empty container, waiting for the environment to write its story. We are not defined by our base pairs, we are defined by how we react to the world. We must stop asking, what is in their blood, and start asking, what have they been forced to endure? We must understand the power of our own minds. Our brains possess neuroplasticity, allowing us to absorb culture and experience like sponges. Society forms us through matrices of expectation, a constant pressure to conform. Who gets access to resources? Who gets the key to the gate? This is defined by institutional power and access to education, not by the chemicals in our blood. We are the sum total of our choices, a synthesis of experience, resistance, and growth. We are here to break the heavy, rusted chains of the biological myth. True freedom is not just about the absence of chains, it is about the presence of possibility. When we discard the fake labels, we finally see the human being standing behind them. This is not just a change of perspective, it is a fundamental reclamation of our right to exist outside the system's narrow vision. We are the architects of our own behavior, capable of rewriting our destinies in every waking moment. The system relies on our silence and our cooperation. By choosing to believe in the equality of human potential, we engage in an act of radical rebellion. We must curate our own environments, choose our own influences, and refuse the narrow scripts of the past. The chains of biological destiny are imaginary, yet they have held us captive for centuries. The moment you realize the door is unlocked, you become a threat to the architecture of control. We are moving toward a threshold where the collective consciousness can no longer be contained by the old, exclusionary narratives. Every individual who questions the grid, who challenges the systemic programming, is a spark that lights the way for others. This movement is not about destroying the past. It is about outgrowing it. It is about recognizing that our humanity is not a divisible resource, but an infinite, shared experience. We are creating a new social landscape where competence, compassion, and creative courage are the only metrics that matter. The chains were never made of steel, they were made of consensus. Once we collectively withdraw our consent, the architecture of control dissolves into vapor. This is our moment to redefine what it means to be human, not as a product of our lineage, but as the master of our own evolution. The future belongs to those who see beyond the grid, those who understand that they are the authors of their own reality, and who have the courage to write a story that the world has never dared to imagine before.